The villagers of Hollow Creek had 3 rules about the northern forest. Don't go after sunset, don't leave offerings at the old shrine, and never, ever speak to the foxwoman if you see her. I broke all 3 rules the first time I saw Yuki. It was late autumn, and I'd been gathering mushrooms near the forest edge when I glimpsed her through the copper leaves. A woman with hair like winter moonlight and eyes that held both human warmth and animal wildness. She wore a crimson kimono that seemed to float rather than drape, and for a moment our eyes met before she vanished like smoke. I should have been terrified. The story said fox spirits were tricksters at best, soul stealers at worst, but something in that brief glance felt like recognition, like finding something I'd been searching for my entire life without knowing it. After that day, I found excuses to visit the forest. I told my aunt I was studying the medicinal plants that grew there, which was true, technically, but really I was hoping for another glimpse of silver hair, another moment of that inexplicable connection. Sometimes I'd see her in the distance, moving between trees with impossible grace. She never approached, never spoke. The legends said foxfolk kept their distance from humans, observing but never engaging. We were entertainment to them, nothing more. Months passed. Winter came and went. I continued my visits, and she continued her watching. We developed an unspoken routine. I'd sit by the old shrine, pretending to read or sketch, and she'd appear somewhere in my peripheral vision, close enough to know she was there, far enough to maintain the boundary between our worlds. My aunt noticed the change in me. "You're different lately," she said one evening over tea. "Lighter somehow, but also sadder." She was right. I was falling in love with someone I couldn't have, someone who might not even see me as fully real. The foxwoman was immortal, ageless, bound to the forest and her own kind. I was ordinary Kaito, a village apothecary's apprentice with dirt under his fingernails and herbs in his pockets. But I couldn't stop going to the forest. Being near her felt like the only time I could breathe properly. One evening in early spring, as cherry blossoms began to fall like pink snow, I found myself alone at the shrine. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. The beauty of it made my chest ache, and before I could stop myself, I whispered into the wind, "I wish I could spend my life with you." The words left my lips before my brain could catch them. I immediately felt foolish, talking to the air like a lovesick fool. Foxfolk didn't care about human confessions. Everyone knew that. Then I heard her voice behind me, gentle as falling petals. "I heard you, Kaito." I turned so quickly I nearly fell. Yuki stood 3 paces away, closer than she'd ever been. This close, I could see the inhuman perfection of her features, skin like porcelain, eyes that shifted between amber and silver in the fading light. But there was something vulnerable in her expression, something achingly human. "You heard me?" My voice came out barely above a whisper. "I've heard every word you've ever spoken in this forest." She took a step closer, and I caught her scent. Wild jasmine and winter pine. My kind doesn't hear sound the way you do. We hear intention, emotion, truth. My heart hammered against my ribs. "Then you know that you've been in love with me since autumn?" "Yes." Her lips curved in a small, sad smile. "Your feelings have been like music to me, Kaito. So beautiful it hurt to listen." "Then why didn't you say anything?" The question came out more plaintive than I intended. Yuki moved closer still, until I could see the subtle points of her ears beneath her silver hair. "Because I was afraid. Because choosing you means choosing mortality. Fox spirits who love humans. We don't just visit your world, Kaito. We become part of it. We age. We die." The weight of that confession settled over us like the falling dusk. I wanted to tell her not to choose me, not to sacrifice eternity for someone so ordinary. But the selfish part of me, the part that had been aching for months, couldn't form those words. "I've lived 300 years," she continued, her voice soft. I've seen empires rise and fall, watched humans live their brief, brilliant lives like fireworks in the dark, and I've always wondered what it would be like to burn that brightly, even if just for a moment. She reached out tentatively, her fingers hovering near my cheek. May I? I nodded, not trusting my voice. When her fingertips touched my skin, they were warm. I'd half expected them to be cold, otherworldly, but she felt real, solid, alive. Your emotions are so loud, she whispered, her hand now fully cupping my face. Louder than any sound. When you're near, it's like standing in a thunderstorm of feeling. Joy, longing, fear, hope, all tangled together. It's overwhelming. It's addictive. Yuki. I covered her hand with mine, holding it against my cheek. You don't have to decide now. We don't have to... Yes, we do. Her other hand came up to frame my face, and suddenly we were close enough that I could see flecks of gold in her eyes. Because if I don't choose now, I'll lose my courage. I'll retreat back into the safety of eternity, and you'll grow old, and I'll spend the next 300 years regretting. What are you saying? She smiled then, truly smiled, and it was like watching the sun rise. I'm saying yes. Yes to what? I asked, though my heart already knew the answer. To walking this path with you, to choosing a mortal life, to... She hesitated, vulnerability flickering across her features, to seeing where this leads us. The world seemed to hold its breath. In the distance, night birds began their songs. The first stars emerged in the darkening sky, and Yuki stood before me, 3 centuries old, offering to trade eternity for the uncertain promise of love. I pulled her closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she melted against me, her arms sliding around my waist. Through the silk of her kimono, I could feel the rapid beating of her heart, proof that she was as nervous as I was. I've never done this before, she admitted against my shoulder, held someone like this, wanted to. Neither have I confessed. I've been too busy falling for someone impossible. She laughed, the sound like bells in wind. Then she tilted her face up to mine, and I saw the question in her eyes. This time, I didn't hesitate. I kissed her softly, carefully, like she was something precious that might dissolve if handled too roughly. But Yuki was no delicate flower. She kissed me back with an intensity that stole my breath, centuries of loneliness and longing pouring into that single point of contact. Her fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I felt something shift in the air around us, a crackling, like lightning before a storm. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I noticed her eyes had settled on a warm amber color, no longer shifting. What just happened? I asked. The bond, she said, touching her lips wonderingly. It's begun. Once a fox spirit chooses to love a human, the transformation starts immediately. I'm already becoming more human, more mortal. The weight of that settled over me. Do you regret it? Ask me again when my bones ache from age and my hair turns gray. She pressed her forehead to mine. Ask me when I'm dying in your arms, decades from now. I think even then, the answer will be no. We stood there as darkness fell completely, holding each other at the border between worlds. Eventually, Yuki pulled back slightly, her expression turning serious. I can't go back to the spirit realm now, she said. Once the transformation begins, returning would kill me. I need to stay in the human world, learn to live as you do. Then come home with me, I said impulsively. My aunt has space. We'll figure out the rest. Yuki smiled, but there was uncertainty in it. Your villagers fear my kind. They won't welcome me. Then they'll learn to change. I took her hand, lacing our fingers together. Or they'll learn to leave us alone. Either way, I'm not letting you face this alone. We walked back to the village under starlight, Yuki's hand warm in mine. With each step away from the forest, I felt her grip tighten slightly, as if anchoring herself to this new reality. The transformation was subtle but visible. Her otherworldly glow had dimmed to something softer, more human. Only her eyes still held that amber shimmer that marked her as something more. My aunt's house sat at the village edge, a small wooden structure with a garden full of medicinal herbs. As we approached, I saw the lamplight in her window and knew she'd waited up, worried, as always, about my evening forest visits. Her face when she opened the door was worth capturing. Shock, recognition, and then a slow, knowing smile. "So the fox woman finally came down from her mountain," Aunt Hannah said, standing aside to let us in. "I wondered how long it would take." "You knew?" I asked, stunned. "Kaito, dear boy, you've been moon-eyed for months, and I've lived in this village long enough to recognize the signs." She turned to Yuki, bowing respectfully. "You're welcome here, though I imagine the rest of the village will have opinions." "I'll face them," Yuki said quietly. "I chose this. I'll accept the consequences." That night, Aunt Hannah gave Yuki the small room next to mine. Propriety, she insisted, though the knowing look she gave me suggested she understood the depth of what was happening between us. But Yuki was overwhelmed by human customs, by the strangeness of sleeping in a bed, of wearing cotton instead of enchanted silk. Near midnight, I heard a soft knock on my door. Yuki stood in the hallway, wearing one of Aunt Hannah's sleeping robes, her silver hair loose around her shoulders. "I can't sleep," she admitted. "Everything feels too solid, too real. In the spirit realm, we don't need rest the same way. But now my body feels heavy, and my mind won't quiet." I stepped aside, letting her in. "Do you want to talk?" Instead of answering, she crossed to my bed and sat on its edge, patting the space beside her. When I joined her, she immediately curled against my side, seeking comfort like someone seeking warmth on a cold night. "Tell me I made the right choice," she whispered. "Tell me this feeling, this terrifying, wonderful, overwhelming feeling, is worth giving up eternity." I wrapped my arms around her, feeling the realness of her against me. "I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can promise I'll be here. Every day, every struggle, every moment of doubt, I'll be here." She tilted her face up, and this time when we kissed, it was slower, deeper. She pulled me down with her onto the bed, our bodies fitting together like two parts of a whole, finally reunited. Her hands slipped under my shirt, exploring with curious wonder, and I realized that despite her centuries of existence, this was all new to her. "Show me," she breathed against my lips. "Show me what it means to be human." Morning light filtered through my window, painting everything gold. Yuki lay beside me, her silver hair spread across my pillow, looking more peaceful than I'd ever seen her. In sleep, the last traces of her otherworldliness had faded. She looked completely human now, beautiful and vulnerable and mine. I traced gentle patterns on her bare shoulder, still marveling at the night we'd shared. She'd been curious, eager, sometimes uncertain, but never afraid. We'd explored each other with wonder and tenderness, learning the language of touch, of whispered words in darkness, of two souls finally connecting after months of careful distance. When her eyes fluttered open, they were pure amber now, no shifting, no silver, fully mortal. "Good morning," I whispered. She smiled, stretching like a cat. "Is it always like that, being human?" "Like what?" "So much. Every sensation, every emotion, so intense it's almost painful." She turned to face me fully, her expression serious. "Last night, I felt things I didn't know were possible. Not just the physical, though that was extraordinary, but the connection, like our souls were speaking the same language, finally." I kissed her forehead. "That's what the legends got wrong. They said foxfolk can't love humans. But it's not that you can't, it's that when you do, it's all or nothing. No half measures, no holding back." No regrets, she added firmly. We spent that morning in my small room, talking and touching, learning each other's stories properly. Yuki told me about centuries of watching humans from afar, of the loneliness that came with immortality. I told her about growing up in a village that feared what they didn't understand, of finding solace in the forest. When we finally emerged, Aunt Hannah took one look at us and started preparing a celebratory lunch. "The villagers will come around," she said confidently, "once they see you're not here to steal souls or cause mischief." She was right. It took time, weeks, then months. But gradually, the village accepted Yuki. They saw her helping in my aunt's garden, learning to cook human food, laughing at her mistakes with good humor. They saw how she looked at me, how I looked at her, and recognized something universal in it. A year later, we married under the cherry blossoms where I'd first confessed my love. Yuki wore white instead of crimson, symbolizing her new life. Her hair had grown longer, now threaded with the faintest strands of black, proof of her mortality, of time finally touching her. "Do you miss it?" I asked during our wedding night as we lay together in our own small house at the forest's edge. "Immortality?" She pulled me closer, her mortal heart beating steadily against mine. "I miss nothing. I have everything right here." As dawn broke over our first day as husband and wife, I realized the legend was wrong. The foxwoman didn't fear loving a human. She was simply waiting for one brave enough to speak from the heart, loud enough for her to hear not with ears, but with her soul.